Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the chaos, glitter and darkness of 1990s New York, specifically the fashion world, where heroin chic wasn't just an aesthetic, it was a lifestyle. We're talking about skeletal models on runways, backstage needles, and a culture that glorified self-destruction while the cameras kept flashing. So before you get comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. A huge thank you to the viewer who suggested this topic. Your ideas shape this channel, and I genuinely appreciate every suggestion you send my way. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always 2 AM somewhere, and if you haven't already, the channel's now live on Spotify. Links in the description if you want to fall asleep to history over there too. Now, dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soft white noise, get comfortable, and maybe check that your life choices are slightly better than what you're about to hear. Let's pause for a second and ask, have you ever wondered what it was actually like to be told you're too fat at 90 pounds? To stand under blinding lights while someone screams that your collarbones aren't visible enough? To be handed a needle backstage and told it'll help you fit the sample size? Could you survive on cigarettes, black coffee, and the kind of hunger that makes your vision blur? Would you recognize yourself after 6 months of this? Or would you just become another ghostly figure stumbling through Soho at 4 AM, hoping tomorrow's casting call doesn't notice you're shaking? And now, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1994. You're 19 years old, you weigh 87 pounds, and someone just told you that you're the future of fashion. You have track marks on your arms, rent you can't pay, and a go-see in 3 hours. Good luck. You're 16, maybe 17, standing in a shopping mall in Ohio or Indiana or some other place where dreams feel impossible. Then a woman in all black with a clipboard approaches. She's from New York, she's from an agency, and she tells you that you could be a model, that you have the look, the bones, the something special that could make you famous. Within weeks, you're on a bus to New York City with $300, a duffel bag, and a promise that's about to unravel faster than you can say sample size. The woman hands you a business card, heavy cardstock, embossed letters, a Manhattan address that might as well be on the moon. She tells you you're too special for this place, too beautiful for wherever you are right now. She says New York is waiting. The runways are calling. Designers will love you. You'll work with the best photographers, walk in Fashion Week, maybe even land a Vogue cover. She makes it sound inevitable, like your face is a winning lottery ticket you just haven't cashed yet. Your parents are suspicious. They've heard the stories. Young girls swallowed by the city, never heard from again. But you beg. You promise you'll be careful. You show them the contract, even though none of you really understand what it says. There are words like exclusivity and advances and recoupable expenses that sound professional and legitimate. Your mother cries. Your father makes you promise to call every week. You promise, knowing already that you probably won't. The bus ride to New York takes 14 hours. You sit next to a window, watching cornfields turn into highways turn into skyline. You're wearing your best jeans and the jacket you thought made you look sophisticated back home. Now clutching your duffel bag with everything you own shoved inside, you realise how impossibly young you look, how impossibly small town. The other passengers sleep or read or stare at nothing. You can't sleep. You're too wired, too terrified, too convinced that your entire life is about to change, and it will, just not the way you imagined. You arrive at Port Authority at 11 PM. The station is fluorescent bright and smells like urine, exhaust fumes, and something you can't identify but instinctively know is bad. There are people everywhere, shouting, rushing, sleeping on benches, selling things you don't want. Someone tries to grab your bag. You clutch it tighter, heart hammering, suddenly aware that you're completely alone in a city of 8 million people who do not give a single damn whether you live or die. You find a payphone, remember those? And call the agency number. A bored voice gives you an address and tells you to take the subway. You've never taken a subway in your life. You figure it out dragging your duffel downstairs that smell like piss and rats and broken dreams. The train car is covered in graffiti. A man across from you stares without blinking. You stare at your shoes and pray this is all worth it. It's not. But you don't know that yet. The Port Authority smells like piss and broken dreams, but you're too excited to care. You drag your bag onto the subway, clutching a scrap of paper with an address scrawled in smudged ink. The city is louder, faster, and crueler than anything you imagined back home. Within 24 hours, you'll realize that nobody here cares where you came from, what you hoped for, or whether you survive. New York doesn't welcome you, it tests you, and most people fail. Your first night in the city, you don't sleep. Not because you're too excited, though you are, but because the sirens never stop. Fire trucks, ambulances, police cars, all screaming through the streets at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Back home, a siren meant something serious happened. Here, it's just Tuesday. You lie on a bare mattress in an apartment that smells like mold and someone else's perfume, staring at water stains on the ceiling, wondering what the hell you've done. The next morning, you're supposed to meet your agent. You get lost immediately. The subway map looks like it was designed by someone having a nervous breakdown. You take the wrong train, end up in Brooklyn, panic, backtrack, and arrive 40 minutes late. Your agent, a woman named Melissa or Monica or something with too many syllables, looks at you like you're a stain on her shoe. You're late, she says. Not welcome to New York or how was your trip, just you're late. This will become a theme. She walks you through the agency, a loft in Soho with exposed brick, giant windows, and walls covered in composites of girls who look like they've never eaten carbs or experienced joy. Everyone is beautiful. Everyone is thin. Everyone looks at you with dead eyes and says nothing. You're shown to a desk where a man with a measuring tape checks your height, your hips, your bust, your waist. He writes numbers on a card. He frowns. "We'll need you to lose 5 pounds, he says. You weigh 112. He doesn't care. Then the rules. You're not allowed to cut your hair without permission. You're not allowed to tan. You're not allowed to gain weight, get tattoos, or pierce anything new. You're expected to be available 24/7. Castings are mandatory. If you miss one, you're dropped. If you gain weight, you're dropped. If you get difficult, you're dropped. There are 100 girls on a bus from Ohio right now who would kill for your spot. Remember that. The city itself feels designed to crush you. The sidewalks are cracked and filthy. The buildings are so tall they block out the sun. People walk fast, faster than you've ever seen anyone move, and if you're in their way, they'll shove past without a word. No one makes eye contact, no one smiles. Back home, strangers said, hello. Here, strangers look through you like your glass. You try to find something familiar, something comforting, but there's nothing. The coffee tastes burnt. The bagels are too big. The pizza is too greasy. Even the air feels different, heavier, dirtier, thick with exhaust and ambition. You call home that first night. Your mum asks how it's going. You lie and say it's great. You hang up and cry into a pillow that doesn't belong to you, in a room that doesn't feel like home, wondering how long it'll take before the city either makes you or breaks you. Spoiler, it's going to break you, but not yet. First, it's going to promise you everything. Your agency sets you up in a model apartment, a cramped walk-up in the East Village where 6 girls share 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a hatred for each other's alarm clocks. The sink is always full of dirty dishes. The fridge contains expired yogurt and someone's leftover Chinese food that's been there since July. You sleep on a mattress on the floor, and every night you hear someone crying through the paper-thin walls, "Welcome home." The apartment is a 4th-floor walk-up, which means no elevator, just narrow stairs that smell like garbage and regret. You haul your duffel up, panting, sweating, and already regretting every decision that led you here. The door is unlocked. Inside, chaos. Clothing everywhere, piled on chairs, draped over radiators, hanging from doorknobs. Makeup covers every surface. The air smells like hairspray, cigarettes, and something vaguely rotten. 3 girls are home. They glance at you, then go back to their phones. No one introduces themselves. Eventually you learn their names. Katya from Russia, who speaks almost no English and survives entirely on black coffee and Marlboro Lights. Emma from London, who books constantly and makes sure everyone knows it. And Jenna from Texas, who's been here 6 months and already looks like she's aged 6 years. Your bed is a twin mattress on the floor in the smaller bedroom, which you share with 3 other girls. There's no closet space, so you live out of your duffel bag. There's no dresser. There's barely room to walk. At night, you can hear everyone breathing, shifting, crying, whispering on phones to boyfriends back home. Privacy is a fantasy. Personal space is a joke. The bathroom is a war zone. 6 girls, 1 bathroom, and everyone has a go-see at 8 a.m. You learn quickly to wake up at 5:30 if you want to shower. The hot water lasts approximately 4 minutes. The water pressure is pathetic. The drain is always clogged with hair, long blonde hair, short black hair, hair in colours that don't occur in nature. You stop looking at it too closely. The shower curtain has mould. The toilet runs constantly. The mirror is cracked and covered in smudges from someone's lipstick tests. There's no counter space, so everyone's products are piled on top of each other. Serums, creams, mascaras, razors, bottles of pills you don't ask about. You brush your teeth standing sideways, trying not to touch anything. The kitchen is worse. The sink is perpetually full of dishes no one will claim. The fridge is a graveyard of expired food, half-empty takeout containers, and things growing mould like science experiments. There's a jar of pickles that's been there since before you arrived. There's yogurt from August. It's November. You're afraid to throw anything away because it might belong to someone who will scream at you. Katya eats nothing but apples and cigarettes. Emma orders sushi and eats 3 pieces before tossing the rest. Jenna doesn't eat at all, just drinks Diet Coke and pops pills she says are vitamins but definitely aren't. You make toast one morning. Someone yells at you for using their bread. You didn't know it was theirs. There are no labels. There are no rules except the unspoken one. Trust no one. At night the building is loud. The couple upstairs fights constantly, screaming matches that shake the ceiling. The guy downstairs plays bass at 2 a.m. Someone's car alarm goes off every night at 3. You lie on your mattress on the floor, staring at the ceiling, listening to Jenna cry in the bed next to you, and you think, this is it. This is the dream. This is what you left home for. Welcome to the model apartment. Nobody's happy here, but nobody leaves either. Because leaving means admitting you failed, and failure isn't an option when you've sacrificed everything to be here. You show up at a casting call in a warehouse in Tribeca. There are 200 other girls there, all of whom look exactly like you. Thin, young, terrified. You wait for 4 hours. When it's finally your turn, a man with a cigarette glances at you for 3 seconds, says, "Next," and you're dismissed. You've just experienced your first professional rejection, and it won't be your last. Not even close. The casting call is at 10 a.m. Your agent told you to arrive 15 minutes early. You show up 30 minutes early because you're terrified of being late. It doesn't matter. There's already a line of girls wrapped around the block, all clutching portfolios, all wearing the same outfit. Black jeans, black tank top, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. It's like a uniform. You're wearing the same thing because your agent told you to. Turns out everyone's agent told them the same thing. You wait and wait and wait. The line moves at the pace of continental drift. It's freezing outside, but no one complains because complaining makes you seem difficult, and difficult girls don't get booked. So you shiver in silence, shifting your weight from foot to foot, watching other girls smoke cigarettes and pretend they're not as terrified as you are. Finally, you're inside. The warehouse is industrial. Concrete floors, exposed pipes, fluorescent lights that make everyone look slightly dead. There are folding chairs arranged in rows, all filled with girls who look interchangeable. Long hair, sharp cheekbones, legs for days. You find a spot on the floor, pull out your portfolio, a book of photos your agency put together, half of which you think make you look weird, and wait some more. The energy is thick with desperation and competition. Nobody makes eye contact. Nobody speaks. It's like being in a doctor's waiting room, except instead of waiting to hear if you have cancer, you're waiting to hear if your face is marketable enough to sell handbags. Every 10 minutes, a woman with a clipboard calls out a name. A girl stands, smooths her hair, and disappears behind a curtain. 5 minutes later, she reappears, expressionless, and leaves. You can't tell if she booked it or bombed. Her face reveals nothing. Hours pass. You're starving. But you didn't bring food because eating in public feels like admitting weakness. Other girls pull out apples, carrots, rice cakes, foods that are loud and virtuous. You sip water from a bottle and try not to think about the bacon cheeseburger you'd murder someone for right now. Finally, your name. You stand. Your legs are stiff from sitting on concrete for 4 hours. You walk through the curtain into a small room where 3 people sit behind a folding table. A man in his 50s with thinning hair and a cigarette, a woman in oversized sunglasses who hasn't looked up from her phone, and another man scribbling notes on a legal pad. Turn around, cigarette man says. You turn. Walk. You walk to the wall and back. Okay. He glances at your comp card for maybe 3 seconds. Next. That's it. 4 hours of waiting for 15 seconds of judgment. You're dismissed like you're not even human, just another body in a long line of bodies that all blur together after a while. You grab your portfolio and leave, face burning, eyes stinging, telling yourself it's fine, it's just one casting, there will be others. There will be others. Hundreds of others. And most of them will go exactly like this. Hours of waiting, seconds of evaluation, and the soul-crushing realization that you are completely replaceable. You're not special. You're not unique. You're just another girl from somewhere else, trying desperately to be someone in a city that doesn't care if you disappear. You walk back to the subway, portfolio under your arm, and try not to cry. You fail. You're told to strip down to your underwear in a room full of strangers. Someone measures your hips, your waist, your bust. They measure your thighs. They measure the circumference of your upper arms. Every number is written on a card that will follow you to every casting, every agency, every client meeting. If your waist goes from 23 to 24 inches, you'll hear about it. Your body's no longer yours. It's inventory. The measuring happens at your agency, in a small room with fluorescent lights and a full-length mirror that feels aggressively judgmental. You're told to remove your clothes, everything except your bra and underwear. There's no privacy curtain. There's no modesty. Just you, standing in your underwear while 3 people stare at you like you're livestock at auction. A woman with a measuring tape approaches. Her hands are cold. She wraps the tape around your bust, pulling it tight. She calls out the number to someone with a clipboard. Then your waist, then your hips, then your thighs, upper thigh, mid-thigh, then your arms. Then she measures from your shoulder to your wrist, your inseam, the length of your torso. You're turned into data points, numbers on a card, a body reduced to inches and centimeters. Step on the scale, someone says. You do. They write down your weight. They don't tell you what it is. but you see them exchange a glance. "We're going to need you at 110, the woman says. "You're currently 115. £5 doesn't sound like much until you realise you're already thin. You already skip meals. You already feel hungry most of the time. But they want you smaller. They always want you smaller. Your measurements are recorded on your comp card, a business card-sized headshot with your stats printed on the back. Height 5'9", bust 32, waist 24, hips 34, dress size 0, shoe size 8.5. These numbers will haunt you. They'll be scrutinised at every casting. If you gain an inch in your waist, you'll be told to lose weight. If you lose an inch in your bust, you'll be told you're not curvy enough. You can't win. And it's not just your agency. At castings, you'll be measured again. Designers want to make sure you still fit the sample size. Sometimes they'll measure you in front of other models like it's a weigh-in for a boxing match. Sometimes they'll pull the tape tight around your waist, frown and say, "We'll let you know," which is code for "you're too fat." Even when you're a size 0, even when you weigh less than you did in 8th grade, your body stops feeling like your own. It belongs to the agency, the designers, the photographers, the clients. They get to decide if it's acceptable. They get to comment on it freely. You'd be perfect if your hips were smaller. Your thighs are a little thick. Can you lose another 5? These aren't suggestions, they're demands. You start obsessing over the numbers. You weigh yourself every morning, sometimes multiple times a day. You measure your waist with a tape measure you stole from a fitting. If it's 24.5 inches instead of 24, you panic. You skip breakfast. You take laxatives. You do jumping jacks in your apartment until your legs shake. You stop seeing yourself as a person. You're a collection of measurements that are never quite right. Your body is public property now, open to scrutiny, criticism, and control by anyone with an opinion and a tape measure. And the worst part? You start to believe them. You start to think that your worth is determined by whether your waist is 23 or 25 inches. You start to think that being smaller is the same as being better. It's not. But by the time you figure that out, the damage is already done. Most days you go to 5, 6, 7 castings, and most days you book nothing. You're too tall, too short, too blonde, not blonde enough. Your walk isn't right. Your energy's off. They wanted Eastern European. You're Midwestern. They don't say you're ugly, but the silence says it louder than words ever could. You start to internalize it. Maybe they're right. Maybe you're not special. Maybe you should just go home. The rejection comes in waves. Some days it's brutal. Someone literally laughs when you walk in, or tells you to your face that you're not what they're looking for. Other days it's silent. Just a bored glance, a dismissive, "Thanks, we'll call you," and the knowledge that they absolutely will not call you. Both kinds hurt, but the silent rejection is worse because you're left wondering what was wrong. Was it your face, your body, your energy, the way you walked, the colour of your shirt? You'll never know, and that uncertainty eats at you like acid. Your agent sends you to a casting for a cosmetics campaign. You're excited, cosmetics pay well, and the client is a major brand. You spend an hour on your makeup making sure everything is perfect. You arrive early. You wait 3 hours. When it's finally your turn, the casting director looks at you for approximately 5 seconds and says, "We're going for more of an exotic look. You're blonde and from Iowa. That's apparently not exotic. You leave feeling like you should apologize for your own face." The next day you go to a casting for a runway show. The designer tells you your walk is too commercial. You don't know what that means. Neither does anyone else, but it's a reason to reject you, and that's all that matters. The day after that, you're told you're too editorial for a catalogue shoot. So you're too commercial for editorial, and too editorial for commercial. You're existing in some impossible middle space where you're not quite right for anything. Some rejections are creative. You're beautiful, but we're looking for something more aspirational. Translation: you're not quite pretty enough to make people want to buy things. You have a great look, but it's very specific. Translation: you're weird looking, and we can't figure out how to sell that. We're going in a different direction. Translation: anyone but you. After a while, you stop taking it personally. You can't. If you internalized every rejection, you'd never leave your apartment, so you develop a thick skin, or at least you pretend to. You smile, say thank you, and move on to the next casting where you'll be rejected for a completely different reason. It's like a game where the rules change constantly and you're always losing. But here's the thing about constant rejection. It doesn't just hurt your feelings, it rewires your brain. You start to see yourself the way the industry sees you, as a product that's not quite good enough. You start to believe that if you could just be a little thinner, a little taller, a little more something, then you'd book jobs. So you starve yourself, you change your hair, you practice your walk until your feet bleed. You do everything you can to become whatever they want, except they don't actually know what they want. They just know it's not you. Your friends back home ask how modeling's going. You lie and say it's great. You post the one photo from the one job you booked 3 months ago and pretend you're working constantly. Because admitting that you spend most of your days being rejected by people who don't even remember your name feels too pathetic to say out loud. Some girls handle rejection better than others. They shrug it off, go to the next casting, stay optimistic. You envy those girls. You're not one of them. Every rejection lands like a punch. Every no feels personal, even when you know it's not. You start to dread castings, but you go anyway because not going means not working, and not working means going home a failure. The worst part is that rejection becomes normal. You get so used to hearing no that when someone finally says yes, you don't believe them. You wait for them to change their mind, to realize they made a mistake, to call your agent and say they meant to book someone else. Because at this point, rejection isn't just what happens to you. It's what you expect. It's what you deserve. And maybe a small voice in the back of your head whispers, "They're right. Maybe you should just go home." You have 6 go-sees today, scattered across Manhattan. That means walking 17 blocks in heels, taking the subway, getting lost, arriving late, apologizing, being dismissed, and doing it all over again. You haven't eaten since yesterday. Your agent told you that hunger keeps you sharp. Right now, you're so sharp you might pass out on the F train. Your day starts at 7 a.m. Your first go-see is at 9, which means you need to leave by 8 to account for subway delays, getting lost, and the general chaos that is New York City in the morning. You put on the outfit your agent specified. Black skinny jeans, black tank top, heels, always heels. Flats make you look shorter, and shorter means less money. You grab your portfolio, a heavy leather book filled with photos that supposedly prove you're worth hiring, and head out into the cold. The first go-see is in Midtown. You take the subway, which is packed with people who all seem to know exactly where they're going, while you clutch a scribbled address and try not to get shoved onto the tracks. You arrive at a generic office building, take the elevator to the 12th floor, and find yourself in a waiting room with 15 other girls who look exactly like you. You wait. You're seen for 90 seconds. You're dismissed. Next. Go-see number 2 is downtown, which means you're walking 30 blocks because the subway would take just as long with all the transfers. You walk in heels that are already rubbing blisters on your heels. Your feet hurt. Your stomach is eating itself. You pass a food cart selling hot dogs, and the smell makes you dizzy with hunger. But you don't stop. Stopping means being late. Being late means losing the booking. So you keep walking. By the third go-see, you're sweating through your tank top despite the November chill. You duck into a Dwayne Reed bathroom to reapply deodorant and fix your makeup. You look pale. Your hands are shaking slightly from hunger, from exhaustion, from the 3 cups of black coffee you've consumed to keep yourself upright. You splash water on your face, take a breath, and keep going. Go see number 4 is in Soho. You get lost. The streets down here don't follow a grid, and your scribbled directions might as well be in an ancient Greek. You ask someone for help. They don't know. You ask someone else. They point vaguely. You find the building 20 minutes late, apologise profusely, and are told they've already seen everyone they need. You just walked 40 blocks in heels for nothing. By go see number 5, you're limping. The blisters on your heels have burst, and you can feel blood soaking into your shoes. You stop in a bodega and buy a single pack of crackers and a Diet Coke for $2. Money you don't have, but desperation requires. You eat the crackers standing on the sidewalk, trying to make them last, trying to fill the gnawing emptiness in your stomach. They don't help. If anything, eating makes you hungrier. The 6th and final go-see is back uptown. You're so tired you can barely think. You take the subway, find a seat, and close your eyes for just a second. You wake up 4 stops past your destination. Panic. You get off, cross to the other platform, take the train back. You're now 30 minutes late. You run the last 6 blocks, portfolio banging against your hip, blisters screaming, lungs burning. You arrive. You're a sweaty mess. Your hair is falling out of its ponytail. Your makeup is smudged. The casting director takes one look at you and says, "We needed you here an hour ago." You apologise. It doesn't matter. You're dismissed. Another day, another round of rejection, another marathon through Manhattan on an empty stomach. You take the subway home. You collapse on your mattress on the floor. You're too tired to shower, too tired to eat, even though you're starving. You just lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many more days you can do this before your body gives out entirely. Your agent calls. "How'd they go?" she asks. You lie and say they went great. She tells you have 5 more tomorrow. You hang up and close your eyes and try not to cry. Because this is the life you chose. This is the dream. And if you can't handle it, there are 100 other girls who can. Some photographers are professionals, others are predators. You learn quickly to recognize the difference, but sometimes the lines blur. A famous photographer invites you to his studio for a test shoot. He offers you wine. He asks you to take off your shirt. You do it because he's famous, because your agency said to make him happy, because you don't know how to say no yet. You will learn, but not before it costs you something. Test shoots are supposed to be how you build your portfolio. Your agency sends you to photographers who need models for their portfolios, and in exchange, you get free photos for yours. It's meant to be mutually beneficial. Sometimes it is. Often it's not. The first photographer you work with is in his 40s, established, with a studio in Chelsea that smells like cigarettes and expensive cologne. He's shot for major magazines. Your agent is thrilled he agreed to shoot you. Just do whatever he says, she tells you. He's doing you a favour. The shoot starts normally. He has you pose in a dress, then a different dress, then jeans and a white t-shirt. He's professional, directing you with clear instructions. Turn your head, chin down, look at me. Good, you relax, this is fine, this is normal. Then he asks you to take off your shirt. Just the shirt, you can keep your bra on. It's for a beauty shot, he says. Face and shoulders, very editorial. You hesitate. He senses it. It's standard, he says, like you're naive for questioning it. Every model does this. You don't know if that's true. You're 17 and from Indiana. What do you know about what's standard? So you take off your shirt. He keeps shooting. Then he asks you to take off your bra. Just for a few shots, he says. Very artistic, very European. He opens a bottle of wine, offers you a glass. You don't drink, but you take it anyway because refusing feels rude, and you've been raised to be polite, to not make waves, to do what you're told by people in authority. The wine makes your head fuzzy. The shoot continues. His directions get softer, more suggestive. Beautiful, sexy, show me more. You do what he says because you don't know what else to do, because your agency sent you here, because he's famous and you're nobody. Because saying no might mean he calls your agent and says you were difficult, and difficult models don't work. When the shoot ends, he says the photos will be ready in a week. He'll send them to your agency. You leave feeling dirty, confused, unsure if what just happened was normal or not. You don't tell anyone. You're ashamed, though you're not sure what you're ashamed of. You did what you were told. That's the job, right? A week later, the photos arrive. They're beautiful. Stunning even. You look like a real model. Your agency is thrilled. They add them to your portfolio immediately. No one asks what you had to do to get them. No one cares. Not every photographer is like that. Some are genuinely professional, kind, respectful, clear with their directions and boundaries. But enough of them aren't. Enough of them push, test, see how far they can go with a young girl who doesn't know how to say no. And the industry protects them. Because they're talented. Because they're connected. Because their work sells. You learn to read the warning signs. The photographer who wants to shoot you alone in his apartment instead of a studio. The one who insists you don't need a chaperone. The one who offers you alcohol or drugs to help you relax. The one whose hands linger too long when he adjusts your pose. But sometimes the warning signs aren't clear. Sometimes the most respected photographers are the most dangerous. Because who would believe you if you spoke up? There's a famous photographer everyone wants to work with. His photos are in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, every major fashion magazine. Your agency gets you a shoot with him. You're excited. This could be your big break. The shoot is fine until it's not. Until he's standing too close. Until his hand is on your hip. Then your thigh. Until you freeze, unsure if this is part of the shoot or something else. You don't say anything. You smile. You pose. You leave. You tell yourself it wasn't that bad, that you're overreacting, that this is just how the industry works. But late at night, lying on your mattress on the floor, you feel sick, you feel used, and you hate yourself for not saying no, for not standing up for yourself, for being so desperate for success that you let someone cross boundaries you didn't even know you had. This is what they don't tell you about modelling. That your body stops being yours the moment you sign a contract. That powerful men will test you, push you, see how much you'll tolerate. And that the industry will look the other way as long as the photos are beautiful. Your agency takes 20% of everything you earn. They control your schedule, your image, and your career. They tell you when to wake up, where to go, what to wear, and how much to weigh. If you gain 2 pounds, they'll know. If you miss a casting, they'll drop you. You signed a contract, but you didn't read it carefully. Now you're realizing you don't own your own face. The contract seemed straightforward when you signed it. 20% commission. Standard. Except buried in the fine print were clauses you didn't understand. Expenses, advances, exclusivity agreements. Your agency advances you money for comp cards, portfolio shoots, and travel. But that money isn't free. It's a loan. And until you pay it back through bookings, you're in debt to them. Every photo shoot, every casting outfit, every subway fare, it all gets added to your tab. Your agent calls you at 7 a.m. You have a casting at 9 in Tribeca. You were up until 2 a.m. at an industry party she told you to attend. You're exhausted. Can I skip it? You ask. Long silence. If you want to skip castings, we can find someone who doesn't. Message received. You drag yourself out of bed. They control everything. Your hair? Don't cut it without approval. One girl in your model apartment got bangs. Her agent screamed at her for 20 minutes, then dropped her. Your weight? Weekly weigh-ins, sometimes more. If you're up even a pound, you'll get a lecture about discipline and professionalism. Your social life, it's managed. You're expected to attend certain parties, be seen at certain clubs, network with certain people. Your free time isn't free, it's strategic. And the exclusivity clause, you didn't understand what that meant when you signed. It means you can't work with other agencies. You can't book jobs without going through them. If you want to leave, you can, but you'll owe them money for all those advances they gave you. And good luck finding another agency willing to take on a girl with a reputation for being difficult. Your agent isn't your friend. She might act like it, calling you sweetie and babe, asking about your day, but she's not. She's an investor, and you're her product. If you're profitable, she'll nurture you. If you're not, she'll cut you loose without a second thought. You've seen it happen. Girls who were her favourites one week are gone the next, replaced by a new batch of teenagers fresh off the bus from Kansas. There are good agents, you've heard. Agents who actually care about their models' well-being, who don't push them past their limits, who advocate for them instead of exploiting them. But you haven't met one yet. Your agent cares about one thing: bookings. If you're booking, you're valuable. If you're not, you're disposable. You start to realise that you don't own your own image anymore. Your comp card, your portfolio, even the photos you post on social media, they all require approval. One girl posted a photo her agent didn't like. She was fined. Another talked about her diet struggles online. She was dropped. Your life, your body, your face, they're all assets now, managed and controlled by people who see you as a line item on a balance sheet. And the worst part, you're afraid to speak up, afraid to push back, afraid to advocate for yourself because you've seen what happens to girls who do. They get labelled difficult, they get blacklisted, they get sent back to whatever small town they came from with nothing to show for their time except debt and trauma. So you smile, you say yes, you go to every casting, every party, every meeting, you lose the weight they tell you to lose, you wear what they tell you to wear, you become what they want you to become. Because the alternative, going home a failure, feels worse than losing yourself entirely. But late at night, when you're alone, you wonder, at what point did you stop being a person and start being a product? And is there any way back? The industry standard sample size is a 0, sometimes a double 0. If you don't fit into the clothes, you don't get the job. It doesn't matter if you're naturally thin. The designers want bones. They want collarbones that could cut glass, hip bones that jut out like coat hangers, thighs that don't touch, so you stop eating. Because hunger is easier than unemployment. You're at a fitting for a runway show. The stylist hands you a dress. It's a size 0. You step into it. The zipper goes up, but it's tight around your hips. The stylist frowns. She tugs at the fabric. She asks you to turn around. She calls over the designer. They speak in hushed tones like you're not standing right there, half naked and humiliated. Finally, will you someone else? You're a size 0. You weigh 108 pounds at 5'9". By any reasonable standard, you're thin. But in the fashion industry, reasonable standards don't exist. The sample sizes are based on fit models, girls who are usually 5'10" and weigh 95 pounds. If you don't match those exact measurements, the clothes won't fit. And if the clothes don't fit, you're out. So you starve. Not dramatically, you don't collapse on runways or get hospitalized. You starve slowly, methodically, in ways that seem almost normal in this world. You skip breakfast. You eat half a salad for lunch. For dinner you have an apple and call it a meal. Your stomach growls constantly, but you learn to ignore it. Hunger becomes background noise like traffic or sirens. Other girls have tricks. One drinks cayenne pepper mixed with lemon water to boost metabolism. Another eats cotton balls soaked in orange juice to feel full. A third takes laxatives after every meal, spending hours in the bathroom, emerging pale and shaky but satisfied that she won't absorb the calories. You try the laxatives once. You spend the night vomiting and swearing you'll never do it again. 2 weeks later, you do it again. The industry doesn't explicitly tell you to starve. They don't have to. The message is clear. Fit the clothes or lose the job. Designers don't make bigger samples. They make you smaller. And if you can't get smaller, they find someone who can. There's always someone thinner, always someone more desperate, always someone willing to go further than you. You stop menstruating. Your hair starts falling out in the shower. Your nails become brittle. You're cold all the time, constantly shivering even in summer, because your body has no insulation left. You develop downy hair on your arms called lanugo, your body's desperate attempt to keep itself warm. You look in the mirror and see bones where curves used to be. Your ribs are visible. Your hip bones protrude. Your face is gaunt. You look sick. The industry calls it editorial. At castings, you're praised for being thin. Finally, a girl who fits the samples, a designer says, like it's a compliment. Your agent tells you you're booking more now that you've leaned out. Your mother calls and says you look too thin in the photos you posted. You tell her it's just the camera angle. It's not. The worst part is that it's never enough. You get down to 105 pounds. They want 100. You hit 100. They suggest 95. There's no finish line. There's no weight at which everyone says, perfect, stop there. Because the ideal in fashion isn't a number. It's the absence of flesh. It's bones and angles and the kind of thinness that makes people uncomfortable but also unable to look away. You're at a sample sale trying on dresses. A size 0 is loose. You're happy for exactly 3 seconds before the fear sets in. If a 0 is loose, what happens when you gain the weight back? Because you will gain it back. Starving isn't sustainable. Your body will eventually rebel, and when it does, when you're no longer a 00, will they still want you? The answer is no, and you know it. So you keep starving. You keep skipping meals. You keep stepping on the scale every morning, terrified of seeing the number go up even by a pound. You've stopped being a person. You're a hanger now, a mannequin, a walking, talking coat rack. And the saddest part is, you think that's success. Everyone has a trick. Cigarettes suppress appetite. Black coffee keeps you awake and alert without calories. Some girls eat cotton balls soaked in orange juice to feel full without gaining weight. Others take laxatives, diuretics, or Adderall. Nobody talks about it openly, but everyone knows. This is just how it's done. This is the price of beauty. You learn the tricks from the other girls in your model apartment, passed around like recipes. Except these aren't recipes for food, they're recipes for not eating. Katya, the Russian girl, swears by cigarettes. She smokes a pack a day, sometimes more. It kills the hunger, she says, lighting another Marlboro Light at 9 a.m. You've never smoked before. You try it. You cough, your throat burns. But she's right, the nicotine does something. Your stomach stops growling. You feel light, floaty, less aware of the emptiness. Within a month, you're smoking half a pack a day. You tell yourself it's temporary, just until you book more jobs, just until you can afford to eat normally again. But normally stops meaning what it used to mean. Normal now is cigarettes for breakfast, black coffee for lunch, and whatever you can get away with skipping for dinner. The coffee is endless. You drink it hot, iced, from diners, from bodegas, from the fancy place in Soho that charges $6 for a cup you can't afford, but buy anyway because it's fewer calories than food and keeps you functional. You drink it black, no milk, no sugar, nothing that might add calories. Your hands shake from the caffeine, your heart races. You can't sleep at night, so you drink more coffee in the morning to stay awake. It's a cycle that's slowly destroying you, but it works. You're thin, you're booking. That's all that matters. Then there are the extreme measures. Emma tells you about the cotton ball trick. You think she's joking. She's not. You soak them in orange juice or a smoothie. Swallow them whole. They fill your stomach without any calories. Models have been doing it forever. You stare at her. That can't be safe. She shrugs. Neither is starving. She's not wrong. You don't try the cotton balls. You have some boundaries left, apparently. But you do try the laxatives. You buy them from a drugstore, hands shaking, convinced the cashier knows exactly what you're planning. The box says occasional constipation relief. You take 3 times the recommended dose after eating half a sandwich, the first real food you've had in 2 days. You spend the night on the bathroom floor, cramping, sweating, regretting everything. But in the morning the scale is down a pound, so you do it again. Diuretics are another favourite. Water pills, they make you pee constantly, which means you're losing water weight. It's not real weight loss, but it makes the scale go down, and that's what matters when you have a fitting in 6 hours and need to drop 2 pounds immediately. You pop them like candy. You spend half your life in bathrooms. You're perpetually dehydrated, which makes your skin look terrible, but you cover it with makeup and keep going. Some girls take Adderall. It's prescribed for ADHD, but in the model apartments it's used for appetite suppression and energy. You don't have a prescription. Neither do most of the girls taking it. They buy it from someone who knows someone. You try it once, half a pill, just to see. You feel amazing, alert, focused, not hungry at all. You clean your entire room. You go to 3 castings and nail all of them. You talk to your agent on the phone for 40 minutes about nothing. When it wears off, you crash hard. But for those few hours, you felt like you could do anything, so you buy more. Nobody talks about how dangerous this is. Nobody mentions the long-term effects of starving yourself, of chain smoking, of taking pills you don't need and don't understand. The focus is always short-term. How do you fit into the sample size today? How do you make it through the next casting without fainting? How do you stay thin enough to work in an industry that only values you when you're disappearing? The diet culture in modelling isn't whispered about in secret. It's woven into the fabric of daily life. It's girls comparing tricks over cigarettes in the stairwell. It's your agent casually mentioning that you'd book more if you lost another 5 pounds. It's designers sighing when you don't fit the samples. It's the unspoken understanding that food is the enemy, hunger is virtue, and the smaller you are, the more valuable you become. You stop seeing food as fuel, you see it as failure. Every calorie is a mistake, every meal is a negotiation with guilt. You eat an apple and feel like you've lost control. You skip dinner and feel victorious. Your relationship with food becomes so twisted that you can't remember what it was like to just eat. To enjoy a meal without calculating, without punishing yourself, without immediately planning how to undo it. And the worst part, this is normal. This is what every girl around you is doing. This is the cost of admission to a world that promises beauty and success but delivers starvation and self-destruction. You're not an outlier. You're not extreme. You're just doing what everyone does. And that somehow makes it worse. It happens backstage at a fashion show, or in a club bathroom, or at an after-party in someone's loft. A girl you barely know hands you a small glassine envelope with powder inside. "It'll help with the hunger," she says. "You won't feel anything," and she's right. The first time you try it, the gnawing emptiness in your stomach disappears. So does the anxiety. So does the shame. For a few hours you feel weightless, untouchable, perfect. You don't realize yet that you've just made a bargain you can't take back. It's Fashion Week. You're backstage at a show in Bryant Park, surrounded by chaos, models stripping down, makeup artists screaming, hairstylists wielding hot tools like weapons. You're exhausted. You've done 3 shows today and have 2 more tonight. You haven't eaten in 36 hours. Your hands won't stop shaking. A model you recognize but don't really know. Tall, blonde, Russian or Ukrainian accent, sits down next to you. She's lighting a cigarette even though smoking backstage is technically not allowed. Nobody stops her. She looks at you, really looks at you and says, "You look like shit. Thanks, you mutter. She laughs. No, I mean, you look sick. When's the last time you ate? You shrug. You honestly can't remember. Here, she says, pulling a small envelope from her bag. It's about the size of a sugar packet filled with white powder. Your heart jumps. You know what it is. Everyone knows what it is. Just a little, she says. Smoke it. It'll make you feel better. You'll forget you're hungry. You should say no. You know you should say no, but you're so tired, so hungry, so done with feeling like your body is consuming itself from the inside out. And everyone around you seems to be using something, coke, pills, whatever this is. You're the only one white-knuckling through sobriety, and look where it's gotten you, shaking backstage, about to pass out, barely holding it together. Just this once, you tell yourself, just to get through tonight, just to feel normal for a few hours. She shows you how to smoke it, foil, lighter, straw. You inhale. The taste is acrid, chemical. You cough. Then it hits. Warmth spreads through your body like someone turned on a heater inside your chest. The hunger disappears, not just decreases, vanishes entirely. The anxiety that's been gnawing at you for months evaporates. The shame, the self-hatred, the constant voice in your head telling you you're not good enough gone. Silent. For the first time in what feels like forever, you feel okay. Better than okay. You feel perfect. Like you're floating. Like nothing can touch you. You walk the runway that night and you're not scared. You're not thinking about whether your stomach looks flat or if the designer hates you or if you'll ever work again. You're just there. Present. Untouchable. Afterward you feel amazing. No come down, no crash, just a gentle, pleasant fade back to reality. The Russian girl was right. It helped. It worked. And that's the most dangerous thing about heroin. The first time, it feels like a solution. It feels like the answer to every problem you've been struggling with. Hungry? Not anymore. Anxious? Gone. Exhausted. Suddenly you have energy. It's like someone handed you a cheat code for life, and all you had to do was smoke a little powder. You tell yourself it's just this once, just for emergencies, just when things get really bad. But here's the problem. In modelling, things are always bad. You're always hungry, always anxious, always on the verge of collapse. So just this once becomes twice, then 3 times. Then you're asking that Russian girl where she gets it because you need your own supply. She gives you a number. You text it. A guy meets you outside a bodega in Alphabet City at midnight. The transaction takes 30 seconds. He hands you 3 glassine envelopes stamped with a little red devil. You hand him $60 you don't have. You walk home clutching them in your pocket like they're gold, because right now, to you, they are. You start smoking it in your apartment bathroom, blowing the smoke out the window, hoping your roommates don't notice. They do. They don't say anything. Katya is doing coke. Emma is on pills. Jenna is doing God knows what. Everyone has their thing. This is yours now. You're not special. You're not an addict. You're just a girl trying to survive in an industry that's slowly killing her, using the only tool that actually works. Except, it's not a tool. It's a trap. And you just walked right into it, smiling, thinking you were being smart, thinking you were in control, thinking this was different, that you were different. But here's the truth about heroin. It doesn't care who you are, where you came from, or what you thought your life was going to be. It just takes. And it takes everything. You don't know that yet. Right now, you just know you feel better than you have in months. And that feeling? That's all that matters. By the mid-90s, the fashion world has a name for the look you're embodying. Heroin chic. Pale skin, dark circles, gaunt frames, a dead-eyed stare. Photographers love it. Designers love it. Kate Moss is the face of it. And you're living it, not as a style choice, but because you're actually using. The irony is lost on no one except the people making money off your image. The aesthetic is everywhere. You see it in magazines, on billboards, in campaigns. Models who look like they haven't slept in weeks, like they've just rolled out of bed or off the floor. Unwashed hair, smudged eyeliner, jutting bones, and that vacant, faraway look that suggests either deep artistic contemplation or a serious drug problem. Usually both. Kate Moss is the poster child. Her Calvin Klein campaigns redefine beauty. She's waifish, androgynous, impossibly thin, with a look that screams both vulnerability and rebellion. She's everything the supermodels of the 80s weren't. No big hair, no big smiles, no big anything. Just bones and attitude and a kind of dangerous beauty that makes people uncomfortable, but also completely obsessed. You're not Kate Moss. But you look like you could be. Pale skin. You haven't seen the sun in months because you're always inside, always working, always high. Dark circles under your eyes, partly from exhaustion, partly from heroin, partly because sleep is a luxury you can't afford. Gaunt frame. You weigh 98 pounds now, down from 115 when you arrived. And that stare. You've seen it in the mirror. Empty. Haunted. Like you're looking through the camera instead of at it. Photographers eat it up. Yes, perfect. Just like that, they say, when you're barely conscious. Swaying slightly, struggling to keep your eyes open. So editorial. So raw. They don't ask if you're okay. They don't care. They're getting the shot they want. Beauty on the edge of collapse, glamour mixed with decay. It's art, they say. It's fashion. The term heroin chic is supposed to be a style, an aesthetic choice. Grunge meets high fashion, the anti-glamour movement. But for you and dozens of other models, it's not a choice. It's your actual life. You're not playing a character. You're not method acting. You actually are a heroin addict, and the fashion industry is profiting from it, celebrating it, turning your deterioration into a trend. There's a famous photo shoot you do for a downtown magazine. The concept is raw reality. Models in abandoned buildings, bare faces, minimal clothing. You show up strung out, barely functioning. The photographer doesn't notice or doesn't care. He shoots you in a corner, curled up, arms wrapped around your knees, staring at nothing. The photo runs full page. People call it haunting, evocative, brilliant. You call it Tuesday. The disconnect is staggering. The industry glorifies a look that's killing you. Designers dress you in $1,000 clothes and praise your edgy appearance, not realizing or not caring that you look this way because you're dying, slowly, publicly, while cameras capture every moment. And it's not just you. You know other models using. Some are open about it, in that coded way people talk about drug use without actually saying it. She parties hard. He's always at the after parties. She's got that look. Everyone knows, nobody intervenes. Because heroin chic sells. It's controversial. It's talked about. It's in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and every fashion magazine that matters. Critics start speaking out. Some call it irresponsible, dangerous, a glorification of addiction. President Clinton even mentions it in a speech, condemning the fashion industry for promoting drug use. But the industry pushes back. It's not about drugs, they say. It's about a new kind of beauty. It's subversive. It's art. Except it's not art when you're vomiting in a bathroom between takes. It's not subversive when you're nodding off backstage and someone has to slap you awake. It's not beautiful when you're so thin that your bones hurt, when your veins collapse, when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the ghost staring back. The trend peaks and eventually fades. The industry moves on. They find a new aesthetic, a new look, a new way to sell clothes. Healthy models come back into fashion. The heroin chic era becomes a cautionary tale. something people talk about in retrospectives with a mixture of fascination and horror. Remember when we thought that was cool? But for you, it's not a retrospective. It's your life. And long after the trend dies, you're still using, still struggling, still carrying the scars, physical and psychological, of an industry that turned your addiction into a fashion statement and then moved on without looking back. Your first fashion show is New York Fashion Week. You're shaking as you line up backstage, your body slick with body makeup to hide the bruises and track marks. The music starts. You step onto the runway. The lights are blinding. You can't see the audience, but you can feel them watching. You walk, you turn, you walk back. It's over in 90 seconds. Afterwards, someone hands you $200 cash and a glass of champagne you're too scared to drink. Backstage is controlled chaos. 50 models in various states of undress. Makeup artists screaming for someone named Gemma who apparently disappeared. Hairstylists wielding flat irons like weapons. Designers running around with pins in their mouths. Assistants frantically steaming clothes. And somewhere in this madness, you're trying to find your look, the outfit you're supposed to wear, laid out on a rack with your name scrawled on masking tape. You find it. A dress. Size 0. It fits. Barely. The stylist zips you up, adjusts the hemline, steps back to assess. Good, she says, which you've learned is high praise. You're handed shoes, sky-high heels you've never walked in before. No time to practice. You've got 3 minutes until you're on. The body makeup was applied an hour ago. A team of makeup artists covering every visible inch of your skin with foundation to hide the track marks on your arms, the bruises on your legs from where you knocked into furniture while high, the general pallor of someone who doesn't eat or sleep properly. Under the lights, you'll look flawless. In reality, you're a carefully painted disaster. You line up. The model in front of you is someone famous. You've seen her in magazines. She doesn't acknowledge you. Nobody acknowledges anybody. Everyone is focused, game faces on, mentally preparing to walk 100 feet in front of 500 people who are judging every single movement. The music is deafening. House, techno, something with a driving beat that makes your heart race. Or maybe that's just the fear. Or the drugs. Hard to tell anymore. The first model walks, then the second, then the third, then it's you. You step onto the runway. The lights hit you like a physical force, hot, white, blinding. You literally cannot see the audience, just a wall of light and shadows beyond it. But you feel them, the weight of their stares, the fashion editors, the buyers, the celebrities, the influencers, all watching to see if you'll trip, if you'll stumble, if you'll be the story everyone gossips about tomorrow. You walk, one foot in front of the other, hips forward, shoulders back, face blank. You've practiced this walk 1,000 times, in your apartment, in casting offices, in the mirror. But it's different under the lights. Everything is different under the lights. You focus on the photographer at the end of the runway, the one with the giant camera and the flashing bulb. That's your target. That's where you turn. You reach the end. You pause. You strike a pose, hand on hip, slight turn, dead stare. The photographer snaps, flash, flash, flash. Then you pivot and walk back. The music is still pounding. Your heart is still racing. You make it to the end of the runway without falling. Success. Backstage, you're stripped out of the dress before you've even processed what just happened. Another stylist is waiting with your second look. You have 45 seconds to change. There's no modesty, no privacy. You're naked in a room full of strangers and no one cares because this is the job. This is normal. Second walk, different dress, same terror, same blinding lights, same walk, turn, pose, pivot, back. You're operating on autopilot now, muscle memory taking over. When it's done, you're dizzy. You're not sure if it's relief or exhaustion, or the fact that you haven't eaten in 2 days. Someone hands you cash. $200. Good job, they say, already moving on to the next model. You clutch the bills, still in your heels, still in your makeup, trying to process that you just walked in New York Fashion Week. This is it. This is the thing you came here for. The dream. It feels nothing like you imagined. You're not euphoric. You're not celebrating. You're just relieved it's over. Relieved you didn't fall. Relieved you survived. Someone offers you champagne. You take the glass but don't drink it. Alcohol on an empty stomach after what you took before the show seems like a bad idea. You hold it instead, like a prop, trying to look like you belong at this party, in this world, on this runway. But inside, you feel like an imposter. Like at any moment someone will realize you're just a girl from the Midwest who has no idea what she's doing. The show ends, the models scatter. Some go to after parties, some go home. You go to the bathroom, lock yourself in a stall and cry. Not from sadness, not from happiness, just from the overwhelming, crushing weight of everything. You came here to be somebody, and now you're not sure if you still exist at all. The after parties are where the real industry happens. You're at some loft in Soho, surrounded by models, photographers, designers, and men in expensive suits who won't tell you their real names. There's champagne, cocaine on glass tables, and a DJ spinning house music so loud you can't think. You're exhausted, but you can't leave. Leaving means missing connections. Missing connections means missing jobs. So you stay, even though you just want to sleep. The party is in a converted warehouse with 20-foot ceilings, exposed brick, and enough cigarette smoke to choke a horse. You arrived with 2 other models from your agency. You lost them within 10 minutes. Now you're alone, clutching a champagne flute you haven't sipped from, trying to look like you belong. Everyone here is someone. That photographer who shot the Versace campaign, that editor from Vogue, that designer whose show just closed Fashion Week, that model who's on every billboard in Times Square, and then there's you, nobody from nowhere, trying not to look as terrified as you feel. A man approaches, older, maybe 40, in an expensive suit and designer glasses. He introduces himself. You don't catch his name. "You were in the show tonight," he says. It's not a question. You were great. You thank him. He offers to get you another drink. You say yes because saying no feels rude, and you've been trained your entire life not to be rude. He returns with champagne and a proposition. Come meet some people. You follow him to a sectional couch where a group is gathered around a glass coffee table. On the table, neat lines of white powder, a rolled-up $100 bill, and a credit card. You know what it is. You've seen this before. Want some? Someone asks casually, like they're offering you a piece of gum. You shake your head. You're already using heroin. Adding cocaine seems like a terrible idea. But the group is looking at you, waiting. The pressure is subtle, but real. Saying no marks you as an outsider, as someone who doesn't fit, as difficult. Maybe later, you say, buying yourself time. They shrug and go back to their conversation. You sit on the edge of the couch, champagne in hand, watching the party unfold around you. A model you recognize is making out with a photographer in the corner. Another is dancing on a table, drink sloshing out of her glass. A third is nodding off on a chair, head lolling, eyes half closed. Nobody seems concerned. The music is too loud. The room is too hot. You're too sober for this. You excuse yourself, find the bathroom. There's a line, of course, and when it's finally your turn, you lock the door and breathe. Just breathe. The bathroom is a disaster. Lipstick smudges on the mirror, empty champagne bottles on the counter, a discarded pair of heels in the corner. You wash your hands, splash water on your face, and give yourself a pep talk. You can do this. You can stay an hour, network, make connections, then leave. But when you emerge, the man in the suit finds you again. "Come on," he says, guiding you by the elbow toward another room. This one is quieter, darker, more intimate. There are couches, dim lighting, and a group of people who all turn to look at you when you enter. This is... He pauses, realizing he doesn't know your name. You tell him. He repeats it, then introduces you to the room. You recognize some faces, a photographer whose work you admire, an editor you've heard your agent mention, a designer who's shown at Paris Fashion Week. These are important people, connected people, people who could help your career. You sit, you smile, you accept another glass of champagne. The conversation flows around you, industry gossip, who's booking what, which agency is hot right now, which models are on their way up or on their way out. You barely speak. You just nod and try to look engaged. Then someone produces another bag of cocaine. This time, the pressure is stronger. "Come on," the editor says. "It's Fashion Week. Everyone does it." You look around the room. She's not wrong. Everyone is doing it, or has done it, or will do it later. You're the only one abstaining, and it's making you stand out in the worst way. So you do it. Just one line. Just to fit in. Just to prove you're not difficult, not uptight, not the girl from the Midwest who can't hang. The powder burns your nose, your eyes water, your heart starts racing immediately. Then the rush hits. Confidence, energy, clarity. Suddenly you're talking, laughing, charming these people you were terrified of 10 minutes ago. This is what you needed. This is how you survive these parties. The night blurs. More champagne, more cocaine, more conversations you won't remember. Someone suggests moving to a club. You go. You don't even think about it. You're swept along in the current, one of the pack now, accepted. The club is packed, sweaty, pulsing with music. You dance, you drink. You take more cocaine in the bathroom with two models whose names you don't know. You're not tired anymore. You're not anxious. You're invincible. At 5 a.m., you're in a cab heading back to your apartment. You don't remember leaving the club. You don't remember saying goodbye to anyone. You just remember waking up in the back seat, the driver asking for an address you barely remember. You stumble into your apartment. Your roommates are asleep. You collapse on your mattress on the floor, still in your dress, still in your makeup, heart still racing. The sun is coming up. You have a casting at 9. You haven't slept. You smell like cigarettes and sweat and regret. This is the dream, you think. This is what you came here for. And then you close your eyes and try to pretend that it was worth it. You're working constantly, but you're always broke. The agency takes their cut. Your apartment takes rent. Your comp cards, test shoots, and travel expenses come out of your paycheck. By the time you get paid, weeks or months after the job, there's almost nothing left. So you borrow money, or you don't eat, or you do things you don't want to talk about to make rent. You just walked in a major runway show. $200 cash handed to you backstage. It feels like a fortune in your hand. Crisp bills, proof that you're working, that you're legitimate, that you're a real model now. You clutch it all the way home, already calculating, rent is $400. You owe your roommate $50 for groceries you ate 3 weeks ago, your phone bill is due, you need subway fare for the week, and you haven't eaten a real meal in 4 days. The math doesn't work. It never works. 200 minus 400 equals still broke. But you're working, so where is all the money going? Your agency, that's where. They take 20% of every job. Sometimes more if there are special circumstances you don't fully understand. That $200 runway show, your agency gets $40 right off the top. Then there are the expenses. Remember those comp cards they printed for you? The professional photos in your portfolio? The test shoots with photographers they arranged? None of that was free. It was all advanced by the agency, and now they're recouping their costs from your earnings. You ask your booker for an accounting. She shows you a spreadsheet. Comp cards, $300. Portfolio development, $800. Test shoots, $600. Travel expenses for that go-see in Miami, $400. Your debt to the agency is currently sitting at $2,100. And that's before this month's apartment fees, which they also front for you and then deduct from your pay. But I'm working, you protest. I've done like 15 jobs in the past 2 months. She nods sympathetically, and you're paying down your debt. You're doing great. Great means you'll maybe break even by summer. If you keep booking, if you don't gain weight, if you don't miss any castings, if. Meanwhile, rent is due every month. Your model apartment costs $400 per girl, which is cheap by New York standards, but astronomical when you're making $200 per show and booking maybe twice a month if you're lucky. Some months you book nothing. Those months, you're just accumulating more debt to the agency, to your roommates, to the bodega owner who lets you charge cigarettes and coffee until you can pay him back. You try to budget. You really do. You write down every expense in a notebook. Subway fare, $2.50. Coffee, $3. Cigarettes, $7. By day 3, you've abandoned the notebook because looking at how little you have is too depressing. Instead, you just stop spending money on anything non-essential. Food becomes negotiable. New clothes are impossible. Entertainment is whatever's free. Other models seem to have money. They go out to dinner, buy new clothes, take cabs instead of the subway. You don't understand how. Are they booking more than you? Do they have family money? Trust funds? You're too embarrassed to ask. So you just smile and decline invitations, citing early castings or exhaustion, when really you just can't afford the $20 brunch they're suggesting. Then there are the unexpected expenses. Your portfolio needs updating, more money. You need new comp cards because your look has changed, more money. The agency wants you to get your teeth whitened for a beauty campaign, more money. Everything costs money you don't have, and all of it gets added to your tab. You start doing things you swore you wouldn't do. You borrow money from your parents, lying about why you need it. You put groceries on a credit card you can barely make minimum payments on. You start saying yes to jobs that feel wrong, photographers who make you uncomfortable, clients who want more than just modeling, because you're desperate. A photographer offers you $500 cash for a private shoot. No agency, no contract, just you and him and his camera in his apartment. You know what this is. You know what he's really asking for, but $500 means rent. It means eating. It means not getting evicted. So you say yes. You go to his apartment, you do the shoot, you take the money, you don't talk about it. This happens more than once. Different photographers, different lofts, same transaction. You tell yourself it's still modelling, it's still photos, you're still a professional, but late at night, lying on your mattress on the floor, you know the truth. You're selling more than just your image now. You're selling whatever parts of yourself you haven't already given away to survive in this city. The worst part is that you're not even spending money frivolously. You're not buying designer clothes or going on trips or living large. You're just trying to exist, to pay rent, to eat occasionally, to keep your phone on so your agent can call with castings, and it's still not enough. The city is too expensive, the industry pays too little, and you're drowning in debt with no life raft in sight. You think about going home. At least there, you wouldn't be broke. At least there you could work a normal job and make enough money to live on. But going home means admitting defeat. It means facing everyone who said you'd never make it and proving them right. So you stay. You borrow more money, you do more private shoots, you keep telling yourself it's temporary, that once you book that big campaign or land that major contract, everything will change. But the big campaign never comes. The major contract never materializes. You're just treading water in an ocean of debt, exhausted, broke, and running out of reasons to keep swimming. Rich older men circle the fashion world like vultures. They attend the parties, sponsor the shows, and take models to dinner at expensive restaurants. They offer gifts, designer handbags, jewellery, rent money. In exchange, they expect access. Not all of them are predators, but enough of them are, and when you're 19, broke, and desperate, it's hard to say no to someone offering to solve your problems. His name is Richard or Robert or something equally bland and forgettable. He's in his 50s, silver-haired, well-dressed, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having heard the word no. You meet him at an after-party. He introduces himself, mentions he's in finance, and offers to buy you dinner. Not here, at the party with the chaos and noise, but at a real restaurant. When's the last time you had a proper meal, he asks, and the answer, 3 days ago, half a bagel, is embarrassing enough that you say yes. The restaurant is in Tribeca, the kind of place with white tablecloths, hushed conversations, and a menu without prices. You're wearing the one nice dress you own, borrowed heels, and anxiety like a second skin. He orders wine. You don't drink. Mixing alcohol with heroin seems dangerous, but you pretend to sip while he talks about his portfolio, his apartment in the West Village, his weekend house in the Hamptons. The food arrives. You try to eat slowly to seem sophisticated, but you're starving. Actually starving. You haven't had a real meal in days, and this steak, butter soft, perfectly cooked, is the best thing you've tasted in months. He watches you eat with an expression you can't quite read. Amusement? Pity? Something else? You're very beautiful, he says. You've heard this before. You thank him. I'd like to help you, he continues. The modelling industry is tough. A lot of girls struggle financially. You nod because this is true. This is your life. I could make things easier for you. Help with rent maybe. Make sure you're taken care of. There it is. The offer. You're not naive. You know what he's suggesting, what he wants in return. He's not offering charity. He's negotiating a transaction. I'm not, you start. But he holds up a hand. I'm not asking for anything you're not comfortable with. Just companionship. Dinners like this. Maybe spend some time at my place. I travel a lot. Could use some company. His smile is practiced, reassuring. Think of it as a mutually beneficial arrangement. You should say no. You should get up, thank him for dinner and leave. But rent is due in 5 days. You have $60 to your name. Your agent is threatening to drop you if you don't book more jobs. And this man is offering a solution. Not a good solution. Not a solution you'd ever admit to your parents or friends. But a solution. Let me think about it, you say. He nods. Of course. No pressure. He slides a business card across the table. Call me when you decide. You take the card. You finish dinner. He pays $300 for 2 people, more money than you've made all week. He offers to get you a cab. You accept. In the cab, clutching his business card, you try to convince yourself there's another way. There isn't. You call him 2 days later. Rent is due tomorrow, and you're out of options. The arrangement begins. Simply, dinner once a week, sometimes twice. He picks you up in a town car. You go to expensive restaurants where you finally get to eat real food. He talks, you listen. He asks about your career, your life, your dreams. You tell him edited versions, the parts that don't include drug addiction and desperation. Then the arrangement changes. He invites you to his apartment. Just to hang out, he says. Watch a movie. Relax. You go. The apartment is massive, floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture, art you recognize from museums. You watch a movie. He sits close. His hand is on your knee, then your thigh. You freeze. This is the moment. This is what he's been paying for. You don't want this. But you think about the rent check he wrote last week, the groceries he paid for, the new portfolio he offered to fund. You think about what you'll lose if you say no, so you don't say no. You just let it happen. You go somewhere else in your mind. You think about anything except what's happening, and when it's over, he kisses your forehead and tells you you're special. This becomes your life. Weekly dinners, visits to his apartment, envelopes of cash slipped into your purse. 500, 1,000, enough to keep you afloat. You tell yourself it's not prostitution because he's not a stranger, because you have dinner first, because he calls you his girlfriend when he introduces you to his friends. But you know what it is, and so does he. You meet other girls in similar arrangements. They call them sponsors or benefactors, never clients. Some are open about it, comparing notes on who pays best, who's generous, who's demanding. Others are secretive, ashamed, pretending their designer bags and nice apartments came from modelling jobs that don't actually exist. The men are all variations on a theme: wealthy, older, married, usually, and fascinated by the fashion world they can buy their way into. They want the trophy of a beautiful young model on their arm. They want access to a world that would otherwise ignore them. And they want sex, of course. That's always part of the deal, even when it's not explicitly stated up front. Some of the men are kind in their way. They ask how you're doing. They seem to care, at least superficially. Others are transactional. Money for time, no pretense of affection. A few are mean, cruel even, using their financial power to humiliate or control. You learn to spot the red flags, to decline offers from men who seem dangerous. But sometimes desperation overrides caution, and you end up in situations that scare you. The arrangement with Richard or Robert or whatever his name is lasts 6 months. Then he gets bored, or you get too needy, or he meets someone younger. It ends with a text message and a final envelope of cash, $2,000, severance pay for services rendered. You cry not because you loved him, but because you've lost your safety net. Now you have to find someone else. Start the whole humiliating process over again. This is what they don't tell you about modelling, that a significant number of girls survive not on their modelling income, but on the generosity of rich men who want something in return. That the fashion industry creates perfect conditions for exploitation. Young girls far from home, desperate for money, willing to do almost anything to stay afloat. You tell yourself it's temporary, that once you book that big campaign, you'll never have to do this again. But the big campaign never comes, and the rent is always due, and there's always another Richard or Robert waiting at another party, ready to offer another deal you can't afford to refuse. You haven't called your parents in weeks. When you do, you lie. You tell them everything's great, you're booking jobs, you're making friends, you're living the dream. But the truth is, you're barely surviving. You've stopped returning calls from your high school friends because you can't explain what your life has become. The isolation wraps around you like a second skin, and the drugs make it easier to bear. Your mum calls on a Tuesday afternoon. You're in your apartment, coming down from the night before, feeling like someone scraped your insides out with a spoon. Your phone buzzes. Mum. You almost don't answer. But she'll worry if you don't, and worried parents ask questions you can't answer. So you pick up. Hi, sweetie. How are you? Her voice is so cheerful, so normal, so completely disconnected from your reality that you almost laugh. I'm good, you lie. Just got back from a casting. Another lie. You haven't had a casting in 3 days. How are you guys? She tells you about home, your dad's new truck, your sister's soccer game, the neighbour's dog that won't stop barking. Small town news that used to be your entire world and now feels like transmissions from another planet. You make interested noises. Oh, really? That's great, while staring at the water stain on your ceiling, trying to remember what it felt like to care about any of this. We miss you, she says. When are you coming home to visit? The question lands like an accusation. You haven't been home since you left. Couldn't afford the bus ticket. Couldn't face them looking like this, gaunt, hollow-eyed, obviously unwell. Soon, you say. Things are just really busy right now. Fashion Week and everything. Fashion Week was 2 months ago. She doesn't know that. She doesn't know anything about your life anymore. The calls have become less frequent, once a week, then every 2 weeks, then monthly, and when they do happen, they're performances. You playing the role of successful model daughter, her playing the role of proud, supportive mum. Neither of you saying what you really mean. You sound tired, she observes. You are tired. You're exhausted. You haven't slept properly in weeks. But you can't tell her that. Can't tell her you're tired because you're on drugs, because you're not eating, because you're selling your body to pay rent, because the dream she helped you chase is slowly killing you. Just been working a lot, you say. You know how it is. She doesn't. She's never been to New York. Never been anywhere, really. She works at the same bank she's worked at for 20 years, lives in the same house you grew up in, exists in a world where the most dramatic thing that happens is when the grocery store runs out of your favourite cereal. You used to call her every day. Those first few weeks in New York, scared and alone, you'd call her crying. She'd talk you through it, tell you it would get better, tell you to stick it out, tell you that following your dreams was worth the struggle. You believed her then. Now you know she was wrong, but you can't tell her that. Can't admit that her advice nearly destroyed you. Your high school friends have stopped calling. At first you tried to maintain contact, texting, occasionally calling, posting on social media. But every conversation felt like a chasm. They talk about college classes, weekend parties, normal 19-year-old problems. You had nothing to contribute that wouldn't horrify them. Yeah, college sounds fun. I'm well. I'm doing heroin and sleeping with old men for rent money. How's your psych midterm? So you stopped responding. Let the friendships die through neglect. Now your phone barely rings except for your agent, your dealer, and your mum's increasingly concerned weekly check-ins. You've become a ghost in your own life, haunting your old relationships, unable to fully inhabit them anymore. Social media makes it worse. You curate a perfect image. Carefully selected photos from the 1 or 2 jobs you book, shots that hide how thin you've gotten, captions about gratitude and dreams coming true. Your friends back home like and comment, so proud of you, living the dream. You look amazing, if they only knew. One night, drunk and high, you almost tell the truth. You start typing a long post about what modelling is really like, the drugs, the eating disorders, the exploitation. You write paragraph after paragraph, purging everything you've been holding in. Then you read it back. Imagine your mum seeing it. Imagine the calls and the questions and the inevitable trip to New York to rescue you. You delete it all. Post a photo of the New York skyline instead. Caption, grateful for this journey. The isolation becomes its own addiction. It's easier to be alone than to explain. Easier to cut ties than to maintain the exhausting performance of being okay. Easier to let your old life drift away than to confront the fact that you're not the person who left home anymore. That girl is gone. This hollow, broken thing wearing her face is someone else entirely. You think about going home sometimes, just showing up at the door, collapsing, letting them take care of you. But the shame is too heavy. You can't face them, can't see the disappointment in your dad's eyes or hear your mum's "I told you so," even though she'd never say it. Can't admit that. You failed. That the big city chewed you up and spit you out, that you're not special after all. So you stay, and you stop calling, and the distance between you and everyone you used to love grows wider until you're completely alone in a city of 8 million people, with no one to call, no one to help, and no way back home that doesn't feel like giving up. At first, you only smoked heroin. You told yourself that as long as you didn't inject, you weren't really an addict. But smoking stops working. You need more. And someone shows you how to tie off, find a vein, and push the plunger. The first time you inject, you throw up. The second time, you feel God. The third time, you're hooked. There's no going back now. The line you drew, smoking is okay, needles are not, was supposed to keep you safe. It was supposed to be a boundary, proof that you still had control, that you were different from the junkies you'd seen nodding off in doorways. You weren't like them. You were just using heroin recreationally to manage the stress and the hunger and the constant anxiety. You could stop any time, except you can't stop. And the smoking isn't working anymore. You need more to get the same effect. You're going through 3 bags a day, then 4, then 5. The cost is astronomical. Your tolerance is through the roof. And the high, that beautiful, warm, everything's okay feeling, lasts shorter and shorter each time. A model you know, someone who's been using longer than you, notices you struggling. You're in a bathroom at a club, smoking heroin off foil, and she walks in. That's not going to cut it much longer, she says matter-of-factly. You ignore her. I used to smoke it too, she continues. Then I realised I was wasting half of it. You want the real thing? You got to shoot it. You shake your head. I'm not doing that. She shrugs. Suit yourself. But when you're ready... She leaves her number on the sink. You throw it away. Then, 2 days later, you fish it out of the trash. She meets you at your apartment. Bring supplies, a spoon, a lighter, cotton, a syringe still in its plastic wrapper. Clean, she assures you. Always use clean needles, as if that's the part you should be worried about, as if the cleanliness of the needle matters more than the fact that you're about to inject heroin into your body. She walks you through it. Crush the heroin in the spoon. Add a little water. Heat it from below until it liquefies. Drop in a tiny piece of cotton as a filter. Draw the liquid up through the cotton into the syringe. Tie off your arm with a belt or a shoelace. Slap your veins until one rises. Insert the needle at a 45-degree angle. Pull back the plunger slightly. If blood appears, you're in. Push the plunger slowly. Remove the needle. Untie. Wait. Your hands shake as you prepare your first shot. You've watched her do it, but doing it yourself is different. The needle feels enormous. The vein looks too small. What if you miss? What if you hit an artery? What if you die right here on your mattress on the floor with your roommates in the next room? Just do it, she says, bored. It's not that deep. You do it. The needle goes in. Blood blooms in the syringe. You push the plunger. And then, nothing. For about 5 seconds, nothing. You think maybe it didn't work. Maybe you did it wrong. Then it hits. It's not like smoking. Smoking is gradual, a slow warmth spreading through your body. This is immediate. This is a freight train. This is every good feeling you've ever had condensed into a single moment of pure euphoria. Your entire body goes warm. Your brain lights up. Every anxiety, every fear, every painful thought evaporates. You are nothing and everything simultaneously. You are perfect. You are God. Then you throw up, violently, all over yourself, the floor, your sheets. The other model laughs. Yeah, that happens the first time. You'll get used to it. You do get used to it. The second time, you don't throw up. You just float. The third time, you realize you've been chasing this feeling your entire life without knowing it. This is what happiness feels like. This is what peace feels like. This is what it feels like to be okay in your own skin. The line you drew is gone. You're shooting up multiple times a day, morning, afternoon, night. Whenever the sick feeling starts creeping in, the yawning, the restless legs, the anxiety, you shoot up again. You've switched from bags to bundles because you're using so much. Your dealer knows you by. Name now gives you a discount for volume. Your arms become a roadmap of puncture wounds. You try to rotate veins, but you're not good at it. Some veins collapse, others scar. You start hitting veins in your hands, your feet, anywhere you can find. You wear long sleeves even in summer. You tell people you're cold, that you have circulation problems, whatever lie keeps them from looking too closely. The ritual becomes its own addiction. The preparation, the anticipation, the needle sliding in, The blood mixing with heroin in the syringe. It's all part of it now. You're not just addicted to heroin, you're addicted to the act of using, to the ceremony of it, to the brief moment of control you have when you're pushing that plunger, deciding to flood your system with relief. You know this is the end. Not the end of using, you can't imagine ever stopping, but the end of pretending you're okay. The end of maintaining the illusion that you're a model who happens to use drugs. You're not. You're a heroin addict who occasionally models. And now that you've crossed this line, now that you're shooting up in the bathroom between castings, there's no more pretending. This is who you are now. This is what you've become. And the needle in your arm is the most honest thing about your entire existence. You wake up every morning feeling like you have the flu. Your bones ache. Your stomach cramps. You're sweating and shivering at the same time. This is withdrawal. The only thing that makes it stop is using again. So you do. You shoot up in the bathroom before your first casting call. You've become the thing you swore you'd never be. The alarm doesn't wake you because you never set it. You wake because your body is screaming at you that something is wrong. Everything hurts. Your legs ache like you ran a marathon. Your stomach is cramping. You're simultaneously freezing and drenched in sweat. Your nose is running. You're yawning uncontrollably, not tired yawns, but deep, jaw-cracking yawns that feel like your body is trying to turn itself inside out. This is withdrawal. This is what happens when you go 8 hours without heroin. This is your new normal. You stumble to the bathroom, trying not to wake your roommates, though you probably already have. Your hands shake as you pull out your supplies. You keep them in a makeup bag now, very discreet, very normal looking. Inside, spoon, lighter, cotton, syringe, 3 bags of heroin you saved from yesterday specifically for this moment. You're so sick you can barely prepare the shot. Your hands won't stop shaking. You drop the lighter twice. The water in the spoon spills. You have to start over. Every second that passes, you feel worse. Your body's revolting against you, punishing you for having the audacity to sleep, to go hours without feeding it the one thing it needs. Finally, it's ready. You tie off. Your veins are getting harder to find, so many collapsed, so much scar tissue. You slap your arm, nothing. Slap again. There, a small blue line rising under the skin. You slide the needle in. Miss. Try again. Miss again. You're crying now, from frustration and pain, and the desperate need to make this feeling stop. 3rd time, you hit it. Blood in the syringe. Push the plunger. Relief. It's not euphoric anymore. You don't get high from your wake-up shot. You just get normal. The aching stops. The cramping eases. The sweating and shivering level out. You can breathe again. You can function. You've just spent the first 30 minutes of your day getting yourself to a baseline that normal people wake up at naturally. This is your life now. Every morning the same ritual. Wake up sick. Use. Feel human. Then start the day as if everything's fine. You have a casting at 10. It's 9:15. You pull yourself together, wash your face, brush your teeth, cover the dark circles under your eyes with concealer thick enough to spackle a wall, long sleeves to hide your arms, sunglasses to hide your pinned pupils. You look in the mirror. You look like a corpse wearing someone else's face. The subway ride to the casting is a blur. You're functional now, but exhausted. Using doesn't give you energy anymore. It just makes you not sick. You arrive at the casting 7 minutes late. Apologize. The casting director barely glances at you. Stand there. Turn around. Okay, thanks. Dismissed in 45 seconds. You have 3 more castings today. Between casting 2 and 3, you'll need to use again. You can already feel it wearing off, the slight restlessness, the beginning of a yawn. You have 1 bag left. You'll need to call your dealer after the last casting. That means you need cash. That means you need to figure out where money's coming from. But first, You need to get through the day, one casting at a time, one shot at a time, one moment of not being sick at a time. You think about the girl who arrived in New York 2 years ago, the one with dreams and hope and a duffel bag full of clean clothes. You wonder what she would think if she could see you now, shooting up in the bathroom before castings, living for the next fix, trapped in a cycle you can't break. You think about quitting. You do. Every day you think about quitting, about getting clean, getting healthy, getting your life back. But then the withdrawal starts, and quitting stops being an abstract concept and becomes a physical impossibility. Because you've tried to quit. You've tried to white-knuckle through the withdrawal, to ride it out, to be strong. You lasted 9 hours, 9 hours of hell before you broke down, called your dealer, and used again. Because the thing about heroin is that it doesn't ask nicely. It doesn't negotiate, it demands. And when your body is screaming for it, when every cell is in revolt, when you do literally anything to make it stop, quitting stops being brave and starts being impossible. So you don't quit. You just wake up every morning, sick and shaking, and do what you have to do to make it through another day. And you tell yourself that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow you'll get clean. Tomorrow you'll fix this. But tomorrow you wake up sick again. And the cycle continues. You know at least 3 girls who've overdosed. 1 died. The other 2 survived but left the city. You've had your own close calls, times when you took too much, when your breathing slowed, when someone had to slap you awake. But you keep using because stopping means feeling everything you've been running from. And that's worse than death. Her name was Ashley. Or maybe it was Ashley with the weird spelling. You can't remember now, which makes you feel like a terrible person. But so many girls blur together in this world. She was from somewhere in California, blonde, tall, the kind of girl who should have made it. She was at your model apartment for 3 months. You shared a bathroom. She borrowed your mascara. You bummed cigarettes off each other. You find out she's dead from another model at a casting. Just casual conversation. Did you hear about Ashley? No, you hadn't heard. She OD'd last week. They found her in her apartment. Been dead for like 2 days before anyone noticed. You stand there, comp card in hand, trying to process. Ashley is dead. Was dead. Had been dead while you were going about your life, attending castings, using heroin, completely unaware that someone you knew, someone you lived with, was just gone. The funeral is in California. You don't go. Can't afford the flight, can't afford to miss castings, can't afford to face her parents, who flew to New York to collect her body and her belongings, and probably spent the whole time wondering what happened to their daughter in this terrible city. You think about sending flowers. You don't. You think about calling her mum. You don't do that either. You just move on, because what else can you do? But Ashley's death sticks with you. You start thinking about your own close calls. There have been 3, maybe 4. Times when you took too much, when the rush came too fast and too hard, when your vision went dark and your breathing slowed, and somewhere in the back of your dying brain you thought, oh, this is it. The first time you were alone. You'd bought from a new dealer, your regular guy was out, and the heroin was stronger than what you were used to. You shot up and immediately knew something was wrong. Too much. Way too much. You tried to stand, thinking if you could just move, just stay awake, you'd be okay. You made it 2 steps before your legs gave out. You came to on the floor, no idea how long you'd been out. Could have been seconds, could have been minutes. You were alone, and if you'd stopped breathing, you would have just died there. On a dirty floor in a model apartment in New York City, another statistic, another cautionary tale. The second time was at a party. You used in the bathroom, came out feeling good, too good, and then everything went sideways. You remember someone yelling your name, someone slapping your face, someone saying she's not breathing, call 911. You remember fighting them, pushing away, because if they called 911, you'd get in trouble. Your agency would find out, you'd lose everything. You made them promise not to call. They walked you around instead, forced you to stay conscious, poured coffee down your throat. You threw up on someone's expensive shoes. You lived. Barely. The third time, you were with your dealer, which was lucky, because dealers know how to handle overdoses. They've seen it before. They know the signs. When you started turning blue, he pulled you up, walked you around, kept you conscious until the danger passed. He didn't call 911 either, just waited it out, then sold you more heroin the next day like nothing happened. After Ashley dies, there's another girl. You didn't know her personally, but you'd seen her around. Castings, parties, the usual circuit. She overdosed at a club. They did call 911 that time. She survived but had brain damage from lack of oxygen. Last you heard, she was back in Texas, living with her parents, learning to talk again. She's 20 years old. Then there's Marcus. He wasn't a model, but he was in the scene, a photographer's assistant, always at the parties, always using. You hooked up with him a few times. He was funny, sweet, had dreams of becoming a photographer himself. He overdosed in a hotel bathroom during Fashion Week. They found him with a needle still in his arm. He was 23. You go to his memorial service. It's in some gallery in Chelsea. Photos of him projected on the walls. People crying, talking about what a talent he was, how much potential he had. You stand in the back, high, because you couldn't face this sober and think about how no one is saying the truth. That Marcus died because heroin is everywhere in this industry, because it's handed out at parties like candy, because everyone's using and no one's intervening until it's too late. The overdoses keep happening. You hear about them through the grapevine, a model you met once, a stylist's assistant, someone's boyfriend. The deaths blend together. You stop going to memorials because there are too many, and attending them means confronting the fact that you could be next. You think about carrying Narcan, the overdose reversal drug. Some of the smarter users keep it on them, but you don't. Because carrying Narcan means admitting you have a problem, means admitting you might overdose, means admitting you're not in control, so you keep using. You're more careful now, always use with someone nearby. Never use the full amount at once, test a little bit first. But even with precautions, it's Russian roulette. You never know when you'll get a bag that's cut with fentanyl or something else deadly. You never know when your tolerance will fail you. You never know when you'll be the next name people whisper about at parties. Did you hear about? The worst part is how normalized it becomes. Another overdose, another death, another memorial, another cycle of people saying they'll quit and then using again the next day. Because the fear of overdosing isn't stronger than the need for the drug. The fear of dying isn't stronger than the fear of withdrawal. You attend a casting 3 days after Marcus's memorial. The casting director knows you knew him. She says, "I heard about Marcus. So tragic." You nod. She continues. You look tired. Everything okay? You lie and say you're fine. She books you for a show. You use in the bathroom before you walk the runway. This is your life now. Death is always one shot away, hovering at the edges of every high. You've seen friends die. You've almost died yourself. And yet you keep using. Because stopping means facing the reality of what you've become, and that reality is so much scarier than the possibility of not waking up. Everyone knows. Your agent knows. The photographers know. The designers know. They see the track marks. They see you nodding off backstage. But as long as you show up and fit the clothes, they don't say anything. The industry doesn't care if you're dying. It only cares if you're profitable. Your agent notices first. You're at the agency for a meeting, and she looks at your arms. You forgot to wear long sleeves and sees the marks. Fresh puncture wounds, some still bruised, clear evidence of injection drug use. Her eyes linger there for a moment. You pull your sleeves down. She looks up at your face. Your pupils are pinned, your skin is pale. You've lost more weight, you're down to 93 pounds now. You look thin, she says. Not are you okay, or do you need help? Just, you look thin, and the tone isn't concern, it's assessment. She's calculating whether you're still bookable. I've been working out, you lie. She knows you're lying. You know she knows, but neither of you says it out loud. Instead, she tells you about a fitting tomorrow, a casting on Thursday, a callback for a campaign. Business as usual. The photographers notice too. You're at a shoot, and you need to use in the middle of it. You excuse yourself to the bathroom, come back 10 minutes later with pinned pupils and a dreamy expression. The photographer looks at you, really looks at you, then just says, "Let's try some shots with you lying down." He poses you on the floor, on a couch, draped over furniture, positions that require less standing, less energy. He knows you're high. He's working around it. The photos come out beautiful, haunting, that heroin chic aesthetic everyone's obsessed with. Your addiction is making his portfolio. He doesn't mention it. He just books you again. At a runway fitting, you're changing behind a curtain and the stylist sees your arms. Track marks, bruises, collapsed veins. She doesn't say anything, just hands you a long-sleeved dress. "This will look better anyway," she says. It's a kindness and a cover-up simultaneously. She's protecting you, but also protecting the show. Can't have models with visible track marks on the runway. Bad for the brand. Backstage at fashion shows, the drug use is so normalized it's barely hidden. Models smoking heroin in bathroom stalls, cocaine on makeup counters, pills being passed around like breath mints. The people running these shows, designers, coordinators, hair and makeup teams, they see it. They walk past it. They smell it. And they say nothing. Because here's the truth. The industry has always known. This isn't new. Models have been using drugs since the 60s. Cocaine in the 80s. Heroin in the 90s. The substances change, but the pattern remains the same. Young girls, extreme pressure, easy access to drugs, and an industry that looks the other way as long as you can still walk in a straight line down the runway. You're at an after party, nodding off in a corner, barely conscious. A designer you've worked with before walks past, sees you, and keeps walking. An editor from a major magazine glances at you, whispers something to her companion, and they both laugh. No one checks if you're okay. No one calls you a cab. No one suggests you go home, get help, take a break. You're just part of the scenery, another fucked up model at another fashion party. The next morning your agent calls. Great party last night. You don't remember much of it. Listen, that designer who saw you, he wants you for his next show. No lecture, no concern, just business. It becomes clear that the industry has calculus. As long as you're profitable, you're valuable. As long as you fit the samples, show up to castings and produce the aesthetic they want, your addiction is irrelevant, maybe even useful. After all, heroin keeps you thin, keeps you compliant, keeps you too exhausted to demand better treatment or question the system. You hear stories of other models who got caught up in addiction. Most ended badly. Overdoses, disappearances, girls who just stopped showing up until someone found out they died months ago. But you also hear stories of models who were so profitable that agencies actively enabled their drug use, supplying them with dealers' numbers, looking the other way when they showed up to jobs visibly high, paying for rehab only when the model became unbookable, then putting them right back into the same environment that made them sick. There's a famous photographer known for shooting models who are clearly on drugs. His entire portfolio is glazed eyes, limp poses, vacant stares. Everyone knows what's happening in those photos. Magazines still publish them. Galleries still exhibit them. He wins awards. You're at a casting, obviously high. swaying slightly, struggling to focus. The casting director looks annoyed but not surprised. "Can you walk?" she asks. You nod. "Show me." You walk across the room. Your legs are shaky, but you don't fall. "Okay," she says. "You're in. You're in because you're thin enough and pretty enough and broken enough to create the exact aesthetic she wants. The industry doesn't care if you're dying because the industry knows someone will replace you. There are 100 girls on buses from Ohio right now, fresh-faced and hopeful, ready to take your place the moment you can no longer function. You're not a person to them. You're a product with an expiration date, and as long as you haven't expired yet, they'll keep using you. No one stages an intervention. No one sits you down and says, 'We're worried about you.' No one suggests rehab or time off or any kind of help. They just book you for the next job and the next and the next, extracting value from your slow-motion collapse, documenting your deterioration for their portfolios and their profit margins. This is the fashion industry. Beautiful on the surface, rotten underneath, and everyone knows. They've always known. They just don't care." So tonight, as you lie in your clean bed with running water and a refrigerator full of food, maybe take a moment to think about those girls. The ones who got off the bus from Ohio or Indiana or California with dreams in their duffel bags and $300 in their pockets. The ones who were told they were special, that they had the look, that New York was waiting for them. Think about how quickly those dreams curdled into nightmares, how hunger became a virtue and bones became beauty, how a substance that promised relief became a prison with no parole, how an industry that sold glamour was built on the broken bodies of teenagers who just wanted to be somebody. The models who survived that era, the ones who made it out, carry scars you can't see in photographs. Collapsed veins and damaged organs, yes, but also psychological wounds that never fully heal. PTSD from the trauma, trust issues from the exploitation, eating disorders that persist decades later, the inability to look at their own modelling photos without seeing a ghost. Some of them got clean, went to rehab, moved home, started over. Built new lives far from runways and casting calls. They became teachers, nurses, mothers, people with substance and purpose beyond their bone structure. They're the lucky ones, though they'd probably tell you luck had nothing to do with it. It was survival. Pure, stubborn, hard-won survival. Others weren't so fortunate. Some are still using decades later, still trapped in the same cycle, just with more wrinkles and fewer opportunities. Some died, overdoses, suicides, infections that became sepsis. Some simply disappeared, their names forgotten except by the people who loved them and the industry that consumed them. And the industry itself, it claims to have changed. They'll tell you about wellness initiatives and mental health resources. They'll point to size diversity on runways and campaigns promoting real beauty. They've banned models under 16 from major fashion weeks. They've implemented BMI checks and health screenings, but the fundamental structures remain. Young girls, extreme pressure, impossible standards, and a culture that still values appearance over humanity. The drugs have changed. Adderall and anxiety medications have replaced heroin, at least in public, but the desperation is the same. The exploitation is the same. They've just gotten better at hiding it. Heroin chic as an aesthetic may have faded, but the circumstances that created it never really went away. They're just rebranded, repackaged, given a new name. The models of the 90s were called tragic. Today's models are called empowered. But if you look closely enough, the hollow eyes tell the same story. There's something profoundly broken about an industry that convinces teenage girls their natural bodies are unacceptable, then profits from their attempts to remake themselves, that glorifies starvation, documents addiction, and calls suffering beautiful, that chews up young women and spits them out, then acts shocked when some of them don't survive the process. The girls who lived through the heroin chic era weren't weak. They weren't stupid. They weren't asking for it. They were children, really, 17, 18, 19, thrown into a meat grinder disguised as a dream factory. They were told their value existed only in their appearance, then punished when they tried to maintain that appearance by any means necessary. And maybe that's the most important thing to remember. These weren't cautionary tales. They were people, real people, with families and dreams and favourite songs and inside jokes. They deserved better than what they got. They deserved an industry that protected them instead of exploiting them. They deserved help instead of heroin, support instead of silence, humanity instead of being reduced to hangers for expensive clothes. So tonight, think about them. The named and the nameless. The ones who made it out and the ones who didn't. The ones who survived and the ones who are still struggling. Honour their resilience by acknowledging their pain. Remember their stories not as entertainment but as evidence. Evidence of an industry that needs to change, that still needs to change, that may never change unless we stop looking away. Because fashion may be beautiful and art may be transcendent, but they should never cost a human life. And for too many girls in 1990s New York and in cities around the world, in every era since, the price was exactly that. Sleep well tonight. And be grateful that your worst nightmare isn't someone else's daily reality. That your reflection in the mirror isn't a ghost. That your dreams didn't turn into someone else's profit margin. And maybe, if you remember nothing else from tonight's story, remember this. Behind every glossy magazine photo, every runway show, every edgy campaign, there are real people. And some of them are dying while the cameras keep flashing. Good night.